Good day, everyone, and welcome to the second session of UP Manila Silab IOL 101 Webinar Series 2025. I am Gabby Velasquez, and I will be your host for today's session. And now, my invite virtually our lab manager, Sir Manu Gaspar, to briefly introduce UP Manila Silab's community of practice. So over to you, Sir Manu.
Thank you, Gabby, and good morning po to everyone. We would like to invite all of you, especially new colleagues and friends, to join UPMC Lab's Community of Practice. Our Community of Practice is a group of experts and practitioners, which I'm sure all of us are included here, who are passionate about advancing standards and interoperability in healthcare. So we share valuable insights, tackle challenges, solve things together towards creating and sustaining healthcare solutions. So please join our community. Everyone is welcome. I will be pasting the link shortly so you can sign up to receive our newsletter and join our WhatsApp group. Or you can also scan the QR code on screen. So thank you, everyone. And I'll pass you all back to Gabby.
Thank you, Sir Manu, for that. Okay. So now, for today's agenda, may I introduce our speaker for this session of IOL 101. So our speaker, Dr. Alvin Marcelo, is a general and trauma surgeon by training, and he's currently the director of UP Manila Silab. He has over 25 years of experience, both in the field of health informatics and academic surgery. He is a director treasurer of the Asia eHealth Information Network, or the AHIN, and the convener of the AHIN Community of Interoperability Labs, or AHIN COIL. Presently, he's also the president of the Philippine Society for Digital Health and a director at the Asia Open RAN Academy. At the University of the Philippines, Manila, Dr. Marcelo held various posts, such as director of the National Telehealth Center and chief of the Medical Informatics Unit at the UP Manila College of Medicine. He co-established the Master of Science in Health Informatics program and conducted local and international research in the field of e-health and health information systems development. All right, so I guess our speaker is ready. Without any further ado, to present us the Open Health Information Exchange adoption in the Philippines, let us virtually welcome Dr. Alvin Marcelo. Dr. Eloy, over to you po.
Good morning, Gabby. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Manu, for helping me out here in the office. I'm pleased to present to you. I think this is our second for the year, but also very important architectural discussion about what might be the future of interoperability in the country. And this is something that's close to my heart. Open Health Information Exchange is a community that has been very supportive of the Philippines and of AHIN and of Asian countries. And I hope that this morning we can talk about the architecture and also challenge ourselves on how this architecture can be applied at the national, local, and how we can exchange semantically consistent data from the healthcare provider networks to the National Health Data Repository. Next slide, please. So please ask permission. It's okay to share, but please ask permission. This is our outline. I'd like to talk more about the people behind OpenHIE first. We have context about the commitment and the passion of the people behind the architecture. Then we will delve deeper into the blueprint, down to the components, and then how we are applying it in the Philippines as per policy of the Department of Health. So our goal for this morning is to introduce to you, the general public, the OpenHIE framework and its components. Let's talk about the people. So the first time I heard about OpenHIE was with Dr. Paul Beyondich from the Registry Institute way back in 2012. Around that time, the Asia eHealth Information Network had just been formed, and we were hosting our second general meeting in Manila. And the year before, when we launched in Bangkok, we were already introduced to this emerging framework for interoperability called OpenHIE. So Paul Beyondich and I had a quick call, and we agreed that this is a framework that the Asia eHealth Information Network would benefit from, such that on the second general meeting in Manila, Paul Bionich was there and brought his whole team. And we had a special session on OpenHIE. So essentially, OpenHIE is about people, an open community of practice with participation from anyone who desires to contribute, interested in solving the problem of health data interoperability. This is the picture in their last meeting in Malawi. Last November 2024, there was a contingent from AHID that participated. On the picture, we have Dr. Rat from Bangkok, Ramesh from Nepal, Uber from Australia, and other countries. And this was, of course, hosted by our friends in Sri Lanka. So let's just differentiate at the outset what are the differences and similarities of integration and interoperability. Integration is when you have data from one system accessible in another, when it involves a third-party function that translates the data, and integration has the connotation of tight binding of these two systems or more. Interoperability, on the other hand, is where you have real-time data exchange between systems without translation. So bit for bit, the same thing. And in interoperability, we don't only share information, but also add interpretations into the incoming data and present it as it was received, preserving its original context. So sometimes you might hear people using integration, sometimes you'll hear them using interoperability. The fundamental commonality between them is that there's exchange of data, but then the semantic understanding of the data that is being exchanged from one system to the other is really the difference. The context of the data that's exchanged is the key element that makes interoperability different from integration. So let's talk about architecture in digital health and specifically take off that HIE component of the name OpenHIE and talk about what is this thing called health information exchange. Over here on the left is a schematic of a community with three homes. You could call them three electronic medical records or three facilities or three hospital information systems. And if you want to connect the three houses or the three systems, then you build roads between the houses or you build data pipelines between these three systems. And it might work for three homes or three systems. This is probably the simplest connection of three systems. But if you proceed to add more homes on the left, and you have point-to-point connections between these homes and these electronic systems, you can imagine the complexity of having and maintaining these point-to-point systems. So let's shift to the right and essentially look at how society is organizing communities right now. So we have grids, we have intersections, and we have homes placed strategically around these grids, making sure that they are not so far from the roads and they have easy access to each other through the established pipelines or highways that have been built by government for them. So architecture is very important because if you don't think about this at the outset, you might end up with something on the left where you have point-to-point systems. And when you have 5, 10, or 20 systems that you need to interconnect and you have a point-to-point architecture, then you will be hard put managing all of these point-to-point connections. And you'll encounter a lot of challenges like such as security, integrity of data, and just remembering who am I supposed to talk to when I'm talking to point A, or who is the administrator when I'm talking to point F. A point-to-point architecture is very difficult to govern and manage, while a well-architected system like that on the right is easier to manage. So OpenHIE is one such architecture designed to be a centralized model where data can be captured at the point of service. These are the systems at the bottom, colored black. These are the software and the applications that we are using inside our facilities, whether you have an electronic medical record, a laboratory system, a pharmacy system, or a finance and insurance system. They would probably be operating in silos, of course, because they will be operating in my facility and you will be using another application or electronic medical record in your facility, a different brand, a different database management system. We would probably be operated by different agencies, so we don't have close relationships. But the OpenHIE architecture proposes that if we build an interoperability layer, the one in green, and we create the right component layers at the top of the interoperability layer, namely the terminology services, the client registry, the facility registry, the health worker registry, and the product catalog, then we are more able to build good interoperable business domain services at the top, such as logistics management information services, shared health records, health management information services, and finance and insurance services. So essentially, OpenHIE is saying, yes, you can build point-to-point systems, but you can also opt to build an OpenHIE type of systems, in which case you now have the potential to have interoperability between these point of service systems at the bottom. So imagine, I'm an electronic medical record at the bottom, and I want to talk to a laboratory system across the town. What I'll do is I will connect directly to the lab system. I'll connect to the interoperability layer, authenticate myself, introduce myself to the system. The interoperability layer will recognize me because of my username, my password, and probably other digital certificates. And then it will then link me through the interlinking service, recognize that I want to send my message to the laboratory system. Maybe it's a request for a complete blood count for this patient. It will then send that data to the laboratory system, but first checking whether I'm using the right terminology. It should be in the terminology service. Am I using the right number for the patient that's in the client registry? Am I using the right facility number or ID that's in the facility registry? Am I identifying myself correctly based on the health worker registry? And am I referring to something that is in the standard product catalog? After all of those checks, the interoperability layer will see that I'm compliant. It will then send the data to the lab system. And because the lab system is also compliant with OpenHIE, it will be able to understand the message that I'm sending it and make a proper response. Probably wait for the patient and run the blood test. And when the blood test results arrive, it goes back to my electronic medical record. So OpenHIE is a digital public good, and a lot of other software are already using it. The point of OpenHIE is that if there are already systems that are interoperable with each other, then it behooves us to use these interoperable systems instead of creating new systems that are not yet interoperable and retrofitting them to become interoperable later on. So, related to the digital public goods effort of UNICEF, ADB World Bank, and the USAID, OpenHIE is also the integrating architecture between all of these different applications that you will find in the digital global goods. Let's do a deep dive of the OpenHIE architecture and its components. So I mentioned about the three layers. At the first layer are the point of service systems, they're in black. There's the interoperability layer in green, and the components or registry services at the top of the interoperability layer in the business domain services. The point of service applications, we have a lot right now in the Philippines. We have CHIPS, we have iClinic SIS, we have wireless access for health, we have CareSpan, we have all scripts. So these are things that are already running in our different facilities. What they do is they collect data and they make the data relevant to the end user. Basically, that's the primordial purpose of a point of service application. However, the limitations of the point of service applications are felt when the patients need to traverse the health system and transfer to another facility. like when they perhaps go to an outpatient clinic of a primary care physician, if the primary care physician gives them a prescription for medicines or a request for lab tests. The old way would be to give them a piece of paper, and then the patients will then carry the piece of paper, bring it to the pharmacy or bring it to the laboratory facility. But in an OpenHIE compliant system, the electronic medical record that is OpenHIE compliant in the physician's clinic can send this laboratory test and this prescription request to the pharmacy electronically. Of course, that means there needs to be an agreement and a consensus amongst the pharmacy, the clinic, the hospitals, and the laboratory that we should all use the OpenHIE architecture. A critical component of the OpenHIE architecture is the interoperability layer. It's basically the workhorse of interoperability. As you can see, it's in the middle of everything. So it receives the message, it transmits the message, it receives the message from a source entity. It makes sure that the payload or the data inside that message is compliant with the component registry services, and then it sends the message to the appropriate destination entity, whether it's a laboratory, a pharmacy, or another clinic or the hospital. So there's a lot of work in the interoperability layer, and later on we'll talk about who will be the responsible agency, perhaps in the Philippines, for the interoperability layer. Of course, in all of these, we're talking about technology, though, but in essence, really, all of this interoperability happened because the people behind the systems agree to exchange data and to collaborate with each other. So we might be talking about all of the technologies such as point of service systems, interoperability, and registry services. But remember, there are people behind each of these systems. And on top of just bringing in all of these technologies around the table, we have to also recognize that we have to bring in the people as well that run these systems, that use these systems, and make decisions about whether what data stays and what data will be transmitted outside of our system. So don't forget the human factor. The third layer of the OpenHIE architecture is the registry services. So these are the components that sort of provide the standards to the words or the terms inside the message that you want to exchange to another facility. For example, I want to exchange prescription data from my EMR to the pharmacy across the street electronically. Then I need to make sure that I'm using the same patient ID for my patient as the same patient ID that the pharmacy across the street will use. We want to make sure we're giving the right medicine to the right patient, right? So we need to make sure that the identity of the patient is consistent as the messages are being transferred from one facility to another. We need to identify the facility code of my clinic, and I'm sending it to the facility code of the pharmacy across the street. We need to have a registry. We need to have a way to find out if I need to send the patient to another island. I need to find out what is the facility code of that doctor in that island so that I can refer that patient more effectively. I need to be able to identify myself consistently, even if I transfer from PGH to St. Luke's, from St. Luke's to Manila Doctors, from Manila Doctors to another hospital. I need to be consistent. I need to be able to identify myself as a physician, the nurse, the pharmacist, the barangay health worker. There needs to be a health worker registry, one health worker, one unique number across all of the different transactions of the system. And finally, a product catalog so that we are using the same code for the same drug, even if it is being ordered in all of the 110 healthcare provider networks, even if it's being dispensed in all the thousands pharmacies in the country, we're all using the same standardized product code. Now, when we have those three layers available and communicating with each other according to the rules set by the OpenHIE architecture, then we can start populating the business domain services. We can start having logistics management information tracking and services so we can know where is atorvastatin being sold at how much in the country. We can have a shared health record so that when a patient transfers from one facility to the other, the second facility will have access to relevant data from the first facility. We can have a health management information service for epidemiology and surveillance, and we'll have more effective and timely finance and insurance services so that patients don't have to worry about, do I have enough money to pay for my confinement? We don't have to worry about that because the finance and insurance service would have gathered enough data from the point of service system to support and answer the question, no, you don't need to pay for this. PhilHealth will pay for the first expense, and then if you have an HMO, whatever is left behind. So the Philippines is one of the first adopters actually of OpenHIE. On the left, you see the OpenHIE architecture. On the right is what we call the Philippine Health Information Exchange, which was published in 2014. As you can see, there's a lot of similarities. Right after the Manila AHID conference in 2013, 2014, DOH and PhilHealth patterned the Philippine Health Information Exchange after the OpenHIE architecture. So you can imagine that if you're medical supply chain and there's good component registries like the product catalog, then in all of the systems in the country, pharmacists and all other systems are using the same product code, then you will be able to track where these products are being dispensed, how much and how fast, and whether there's enough supply to support the consumption of the patients. Okay. So here's the problem when we don't really plan and we don't have an architecture. When one group starts building the bike lane and another group starts building the sidewalk, but they don't have a shared blueprint. The picture is, I mean, it paints a thousand words. Like this can really happen. Uh, Very unsafe, very inconvenient, and that's why one of our advocacies at AHID and at SILAB is that we should have a shared blueprint. Even as the agencies are working separately with their own information technology projects, it really, really helps if there's a shared blueprint across these agencies so that we can reuse what another agency has built and we can contribute uh, data and resources to another agency. When we don't plan, we end up with linkages that are inefficient and simply don't work after a specific time period. So let's talk about OpenHIE in the Philippines. I'd like to start with the adoption of DOH of the AHID Mind the Gaps framework. For those who are not yet familiar with the Mind the Gaps framework, GAPS is governance, architecture A, people for P, and standards and interoperability for S. That is the mantra of the Asia eHealth Information Network that for countries to move forward with digital health and interoperable systems, they should look after their governance, architecture, people, and standards and interoperability. And the Department of Health, in their formal documents, have really embraced the GAPS framework. So here we have the governance structure of the Department of Health and PhilHealth. There's the Digital Health Steering Committee meeting. It was convened by Secretary Ted Herbosa last October 2023. And then there's the supporting technical working group that does all of the heavy lifting on behalf of the steering committee. So these two groups are really at the core of all the transformations that are happening right now. And in these meetings, they engage the private sector, make sure that the communications and the messages are very clear so that even within the Department of Health, the DICT, the PhilHealth, UP Manila, there's collaboration and interaction. The structure, the steering committee is chaired by Secretary Ted Herbosa as the Secretary of Health and co-chaired by Secretary Ivan Uy from the ICT. And the members are from PSA, DOST, PhilHealth, EP Manila, and Department of Budget and Management, and there's a private sector representative. The technical working group is headed by the Director of the Knowledge Management and Information Technology Services of DOH and supported and co-chaired by the DICT Director of Government Digital Transformation. There's a core group of the TWG composed of the government agencies, and there's a lot of stakeholders, including AHID, at the bottom, providing advice and inputs to the core technical working group. The plan of the steering committee and the technical working group is to expand by inviting experts. So if you in the audience are interested in contributing, please let us know. We can introduce you to KBITS. There will be a health enterprise architecture standards and data management expert group. If you're interested in OpenHIE, this is where you'll be. There's the e-health services and applications experts group. If you're developing software, electronic medical records, laboratory systems, this is where you'll be. There's the health data privacy and cybersecurity experts group, self-explanatory, and there's the e-health capacity building experts group. If you're a training facility or institution and want to contribute to capacity building, this would be your experts group. Now, Secretary Ted has already announced the 8-point action agenda, of which the third one is leveraging technology for more efficient healthcare services. And Secretary Ted also announced that of all the things that we can digitize, we will focus on the first 8. And the first 8 are immunization, nutrition, maternal care, hypertension DM, TB HIV, road safety, WASH, and cancer. So if you're working on any of these 8 priority outcomes, you are most welcome to participate in the discussions going on right now in digital health. And then there will be 8 tier 1 projects, 8-point action agenda, 8 priority outcomes, and 8 tier 1 projects. And that's what you see on the screen right now. There's the internal DOH digitalization. There's the health human resources workforce registry. There's the EMR implementation. There's the National Health Data Repository, the National Health Information Exchange, the UHC integration sites, and provincial citywide health system integration. There's digital vaccinations and healthcare financing systems. Of these 8, the most prominent right now, admittedly, is the National Health Data Repository. PhilHealth and DOH are working very closely on creating the schematics of the National Health Data Repository. It's going to be based on FHIR. We hope that SNOMED will be there upon launch. And SILAB is a very willing and active contributor supporting DOH and PhilHealth as they collaborate in creating the National Health Data Repository. So you are already familiar with this framework. So now let's map agency to the OpenHIE architecture. DOH has already committed that they will take care of the logistics management information services, shared health record, and health management information service. And PhilHealth will take care of the finance and insurance service. At the component layer, registry services, DOH said that we'll take care of all of these, make sure that all of these registries are optimal and are available to the point of care services and the interoperability layer. The interoperability layer will be supported by the DICT. And at the bottom, point of care services will be supported by the healthcare provider networks. Obviously, because they will be the ones installing and running these point of care systems inside their facilities. Now, I encircled I put the blue rectangle on specific because they are already in the tier 1 project. So remember, there's a healthcare financing system. So that's why the finance and insurance services at the top is encircled in a rectangle. The EMR project and the finance and insurance system are all in the tier 1 project. The NHDR is a tier 1 project. The Health Management Information Service is called RISE. I forget what RISE means, but it's Routine Information Surveillance and Epidemiology, I think. So And then there's the workforce registry from the Department of Health. So all these things in blue are already activated. So they are now work in progress, and we are closely monitoring these systems. Make sure that they will reach a level of maturity so that we can have all of these components supporting the OpenHIE architecture. UP Manila is supporting the terminology services. We hope that at some point we will be able to offer terminology services to the country. PSA has already activated the PhilSys system. There's an API already with support from the ICT. The Department of Health already has a facility registry. It's accessible at nhfr.doh.gov.ph, and FDA already has a product catalog that we hope can become also exposed to the OpenHE architecture through application programming interfaces or API. And so there was a partners meeting last October 14th, and we had additional commitments from our partners. Some of them are in the call. World Bank committed to support the client registry. CSIRO from Australia supports UP Manila Silab for terminology services. And other partners at the right lower corner for point of care services, Kuwaika, USAID, World Bank, ADB, DOST are all on the ground already helping areas, HCPNs, healthcare provider network. So I hope that at some point we will be able to summarize all of these through a RACI matrix. Who is responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, who's informed when it comes to the point of care services in this healthcare provider network, who's RACI for the National Health Facility Registry, the RACI for terminology services, so forth and so on. And that will become the basis for some policy documents and circulars that will come out soon in support of the OpenHIE architecture, of course, with the National Health Data Repository. So I think that's my last slide. I think just wanted to emphasize that this project we have right now with CSIRO called Strengthening Standards Capability Project or SSCP. I see Ober Disar in the call. It's very strategic. When we go live with our terminology services, with our training on fire, on ontology, on SNOMED, we hope that all of the stakeholders would be able to level up so that now we're using the same terms, using the same codes, even if we use different electronic medical records, different databases, that's fine. You want to make and create your own systems according to your own business processes. But when it comes to terminology and code systems, we hope that you can avail of the terminology services that Silab will be offering soon. So thank you very much. I think we have about 15 minutes for questions, and we don't need to finish all 15 if the questions are not coming in. So I see a question from JP. Can OpenHIE be the point of entry if other sectors like the SWD would like to seek data exchange with DOH and PhilHealth? There's a particular interest from the SWD on client registry and facility registry asking for a friend. Thank you, JP. The answer is yes. When the OpenHIE architecture it's published already by DOH, and the APIs coming from that OpenHIE architecture are exposed, like the API for the workforce registry, the API for the National Health Facility Registry. There's already the PSA API for patient identification. When we start reusing these systems, DSWD can use them. Of course, you'll have to request for your own digital certificate for encryption and security purposes. But once you have all of the governance and security tools with you, and you are given the privilege and access by DOH at the registry services, the answer is yes. So I really like to encourage our government agencies to collaborate and start disclosing to each other. These are services I'm offering to you. These are APIs that you can access. As long as you use the right API and you have the right competent people on your side that we know are are competent and capable to consume the API, I think it will really open up a marketplace even within government agencies, no, and offer better services to the citizens. ABL, yes, thank you. You are most welcome. Make sure to join the community of the community of practice of SILAB. ABL is from MedCheck, and they were very supportive at the APAMI. If you are a private or public group and you have interoperability top of mind, I encourage you to join the community of practice. We announce a lot of things that are happening over there, some collaborations. I am already sure that if you are interoperable, your market will expand tremendously. Can you imagine? You're just serving one facility and you're already making money. But if you are also interoperable with other systems, then you can really, really uh, enlarge your territory, so to speak. And it's the market is so big. We have the universal healthcare law. We have to ensure UHC to 110 million Filipinos. We cannot achieve that if we do not create interoperable systems. So I encourage everyone like ABL, private companies, please join the community of practice. We will have boot camps. We will have connectathons. I'm sorry if the spaces are limited for some of these events, but first come, first serve. If you sign up and you are one of the first ones to join, of course, you are most welcome. We hope that we will get more resources from the Department of Health and PhilHealth this year to open it up, the connectathons, and go at the regional level so that Manila is the one offering the connectathons, but we can also go to Visayas and Cebu. So, yeah, JP, do you want to open your microphone and talk about what's similar in the SWD? I think we have the right audience here.
Yep. Good
Yep.
morning, Dr. Eloy. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
We have the
We
same
have the
idea for DSWD. I'm really looking forward doon sa API data exchange. I've shared a snippet of press release ng DSWD, and I hope moving forward we can facilitate the exchange from Open HIE and DSWD. Over.
Good. Thank you, JP. I think this is what I mean. We were texting earlier with JP, and I was saying, hopefully, the government agencies, even if they're operating separately, they can also like disclose to each other what are shared services that are available. Of course, there are data that cannot be shared. That's understandable. But there are data that can be shared, and therefore, once you do your privacy impact assessment and you know which data cannot be shared and which data can be shared, then this shareable data can be exposed through APIs with proper security and digital certificates. By the way, JP, the WHO has released a framework for the digital health certificates. So I hope that at some point, maybe this year, there will be some prototyping already on the public key infrastructure on health data. I think that's going to come down from Geneva to the regions to the countries for specific data like vaccination data and very sensitive personal information. Doc CEO has a question. Can you discuss briefly the scope of work by the ICT as the organization in charge of the interoperability layer? What can point of service providers expect from them, and if you have news about their progress? So I don't have detailed information about how the ICT is offering the interoperability layer. I saw a presentation of USEC Dave Almirol November 12 at the Philippine Identity Summit, and they have something called the GovDex, or the Government Data Exchange Platform. And I approached him right after his talk, and I said, you said that's basically the interoperability layer. So once you're ready, I think we can start tapping on your GovDex. But don't put me on record because there might be another separate exchange platform for the health data. No? But this is really up the alley of the ICT. I mean, they do this while sleeping. You know, interoperability, transform, receive, transform, send, really are the competencies of the ICT. And I think that's also their mandate, make sure that there's interoperability between the different agencies, public and private sector. Um, I've always wondered, Doc, from Dr. Reyes, why are there 8 different systems for different cases or diagnosis instead of one national repository? Uh, so there's only one national health data repository, okay? And then there are 8 priority outcomes, which provides strategic focus on the first 8 use cases. But actually, tama ka, Dr. Reyes, no? If you look at this from the life stages approach, when the mother, maternal care, delivers a baby, that starts the immunization process, right? So maternal, and then immunization, and then as the baby is growing, you're monitoring the height and weight, that's nutrition. And then later on, they become adults. You monitor them for road safety. You monitor them for prevention of cancer. You monitor them for hypertension and DM. And if knock on wood, they get TB and hypertension. So I think what the government is trying to do is, okay, guys, the whole healthcare system is very big. Can we just focus on the first 8? And we're not saying it's going to be only the 8. We're just saying, you know, let's start with this 8. Let's solve the problem of these 8 painful outcome areas. And then once you build the system for the 8, then I'm sure we can reuse whatever we built for the 8 for the other problems of the health system. So pa tayo. Uh, so are the supported schemas different? So the answer is no. If the FHIR is the standard that will be used by the National Health Data Repository, the the overall schema is the same. The profiles might be different depending on the use case, but all of them will be interoperable with each other. But we have to really make sure that we put our heads together here, though. Do not rely alone on Silab doing this. You have to participate in the community of practice. You know, I mean, my team, you know, we can come up with a profile, but it will be practically useless if you don't participate and give your inputs on that profile. Why? Because in the end, the profiles will be consumed by the point of service systems. So if you are only on the receiving end of what these profiles are, and you don't participate in the profile development process, it's it will take you a lot of time understanding why is the profile structured like this, no? So my encouragement really to everyone is join the community of practice as we engage with the UH and PhilHealth and build the use cases, build the profiles based on their priority use cases. You're already there. You're already there listening in, giving comments, arguing, debating. And we want that to happen, you know, at the outset. So that by the time we get to the point where we have a profile, it's consensus already. We have done the teaming part, and we are now building the tools together. And therefore, we are confident that, you know, we already pulled our hair, arguing and debating on how to configure the profile, what resources are going to be used, etc., what will be the value sets. And because of that community effort, and I think that's also the Australian experience, you know, just releasing a standard is not enough. It's important, but it's not enough. We need to bring the community to embrace the standard, mold it according to something that is practical and useful for them, and implement it inside their point of service systems. It's a long, long way, no? But we need to take that journey all together. No? We cannot, you know, have one group moving ahead and then the other groups are left behind. We all need to be in synchrony. There will be the ICT in our bootcamp. So I specifically requested for the GovDex people to participate in the bootcamp of February 4 to 6. So maybe after that, we will have more information to the community of practice. I'm sorry that we cannot accommodate all of you in the bootcamp. But of course, you will get updates about what happened, what are the tools. We're going to talk about Open Health Stack, AidBox, Smile Digital Health, Auto Server. Uh, there will be 150 people coming. We can fit everyone, but if you're in the committee of practice, we'll make sure that you get blow by blow accounts, and get updates about what tools are available and how to use the tools properly. Okay, we have 3 more minutes. I think, Gabby, if there are no more questions, we can wrap up and have our customary group photo.
All right. So if there are no more any other questions, may I request the group to please turn on your camera and let's have a group photo taken. In 3, 2, 1. Once again, thank you. This is Gabby Velasquez. Have a great day and see you next Wednesday, everyone. Thank you so much, guys, for joining today.